Hello, my name is Emma, and to begin, I first want to admit how terrifying and uncomfortable this is for me to be standing in front of you, telling you about my journey. My journey of finding my voice, the hills, the valleys, the setbacks, and the victories. I'm a type 2 introvert through and through. I'm someone who craves and feels most comfortable in quiet, calm, unstructured alone time. Time to journal, read through my quote book, take a walk, work on calligraphy, or just sit and be still. The term alone cone became a very accepted and understood word throughout the group. It was a concept that we all learned to have respect for, as we knew it was healthy, especially for those like myself who needed that time to recharge and debrief. Who are you going to lunch with? Libby asked me. Myself, I told her. With a confused look on her face, she asked, "Ooh, can I come?" "Oh, I'm alone coning today," I told her. This conversation became typical and frequent between individuals in the group, and it is something I hope to implement into my friendships and relationships at home. Needing alone cone time is nothing new to me, but more than ever, I have accepted it on this trip, and I have felt the benefits of it, feeling more excited and ready to see people again after each alone cone period or day that I took. As I look back on my high school experience, it is something I wish I made a greater priority, as high school was its own battle. I attended a wealthy and largely diverse public school of nearly 3,500 students, and I sat in traditional classrooms with 31 filled desks. Over my 4 years there, I learned to walk the halls in survival mode, just trying to get through each day. I didn't know what it felt like to thrive, as my only hope was to keep my head above water and simply graduate. It became incredibly evident that I didn't fit the mold of the average student, and my participation grades proved that. Typically, my high school teachers gave a participation grade at the end of each marking period, evaluating student engagement and the amount of times that each student raises their hand and/or their voice. These grades were the last grade to be entered into the grade system, and they were often known to make or break a grade. The idea of participation grades still make me cringe because they didn't necessarily help me, and they oftentimes gave me another reason to feel hard on myself. Why is it so hard to raise my hand? How does everyone else feel comfortable blurting out their ideas and opinions so effortlessly? Will I ever get a 100% on a participation grade? Thankfully, my senior year, I was placed with an English teacher that deserves so much credit on this journey of mine. I wasn't feeling too hopeful about senior year English, especially considering the fact that I was not close with anyone in the class, and the class size was too big for comfort. As the marking period came to an end, my English teacher explained to us that she would indeed be giving us a participation grade, but that didn't mean she was giving us a grade based on the amount of times our hand went up each day. She was grading us based on our active listening skills and silent engagement in the classroom. I had never heard of such a thing, yet felt so understood and respected at the same time. For what felt like the first time in the classroom setting, I had a teacher that openly understood the different ways that students learn, and that was huge for me. That was a noticeable milestone in my journey, and I still think back on my comfortable experience in her classroom, often comparing her styles of teaching to the styles of Kelly and Isaac. I really believe that she was foreshadowing to the style of learning that I'd be immersed in the coming chapters of my life. Fast forward a few months later, and I said goodbye to my parents in the Baltimore airport, and I hopped into the 4 a.m. shuttle with a group of strangers. I waved out the window as we drove off, completely unaware of the journey I was about to embark on. The long, rocky, steep hill I was choosing to hike. As I write about and reflect on experiences over the past 6 months, the image and concept of hiking a hill, feels incredibly real to me. The stories I'm about to share follow the pattern of a long hike in the woods with plenty of setbacks, plenty of learning experiences, and plenty of prideful moments for me. Beginning in orientation at the beautiful Hochstetler Hotel felt like a blank slate opportunity for me to be someone else. No one knew me or my story, and maybe this would be the place I would find confidence in my voice. the confidence I desired to obtain for so long. Little did I know that this was just the beginning of my long and windy hike in the woods. Immediately in the first seminar at Hochstetler, I felt incredibly overwhelmed by the loud, powerful, educated voices that so easily could insert themselves into any conversation. There was so much competition in the voices being projected, and it was hard to keep up. I was intimidated, and I felt more voiceless than ever. I remember very early on in orientation, our group was having a conversation about discussion dynamics and how to best structure our conversations to ensure that all voices that want to be heard are heard. I clearly remember Zach proposing the idea of subtle hand raising if we wanted to speak as opposed to just blurting out so that no one had trouble interjecting. For some reason, this proposal felt powerful to me and I felt so understood already. It especially meant a lot because I noticed Zach had no problem interjecting, but I knew he was looking out for people like myself who do have trouble interjecting. Although I still felt voiceless, I also felt as though I wasn't hiking this journey of mine alone. A few nights into Hochstetler, we began taking turns sharing our story. Who we were, where we had come from, our highs and our lows. We called it our river of life. The thought of being honest and vulnerable to a group of people I had known for less than a week felt scary. I knew I had a story to tell, but I simply wasn't comfortable in my voice yet. As I spent long hours preparing my river of life and eventually told my story one dark and rainy night, I felt surprisingly comfortable. I said what I wanted to say, and though it was the shortest river by far, I felt proud. I told my story. Not only did I tell my story, but I had a room full of people listening, so genuinely and intently. I noticed this starting in Hochstetler, but really throughout the whole trip. That when I did decide to use my voice, the group would drop everything and listen so carefully. This meant so much to me as I knew that once I did insert myself, my voice would be heard and respected by all sides of the room. I learned that I had an army of supporters and listeners behind me. I'm the type of person to very clearly remember comments people make, whether good or bad. They stick with me. One that sticks out to me is Harry telling me after my river, "I like hearing your voice, and I think we'd all love to hear it more." Comments like that proved to me that this group might not have fully understood me yet, but that they sure do care about me and my voice. A few weeks later, I found myself farming in Tech Pond at an odd farm that I had never been on before. Our farmer, Cesar, told us that there was a change in plans after a sketchy phone call, and we all walked to a new farm with a dozen boys working there, all our age or younger. We were naturally uncomfortable, but we put in our earbuds and started plucking away at the strawberry weeds. At this point, as young female foreigners, we were beginning to become used to the discomfort, fear, and anger involved in simply stepping outside of our house. As time went on in the strawberry field, it became clear that something was going on and that we should probably be more aware of our surroundings. Molly Fox had the same feeling, and we both caught on to the fact that we were being verbally harassed by the men and boys working in the fields with us. They were making derogatory comments about us females and took every opportunity to mock our actions. Even the slightest sneeze was then mocked by the whole row of men working a few feet over from us. This went on for 4 hours, and I remember leaving the field as they whistled at us and feeling so angry that I didn't say something. I felt as though I let them walk all over me. This was a low point in my journey when I initially failed to forgive myself. The concept of grace came into play, and I really started recognizing moments like this that I should have given myself more grace. Grace because I am not to blame, and because I know the sun will rise tomorrow and I can try again. As seminars in Guatemala happened weekly, I still struggled to fit my voice into conversations, and oftentimes, when I did forcefully push my voice in, I was pushed right back down by comments like, "Not so loud, Emma." Sarcastic comments that stung deeper than they would for most people. That was a sensitive spot for me because I often shut down, and I didn't always initially feel the need to get back up. Why keep trying when some people just won't ever understand? As sarcastic comments happened more than once, Lily and I started coming home each night and having nightly vent sessions. We talked about our days and comments that made us feel a certain way. We even got to the point where little things would happen and we'd look at each other with smiles on our faces because we knew that we were going to have to talk about it later. That safe place that Lily and I created with each other in our little room in Guatemala is something that I don't want to ever take for granted. Time went on, and I found myself in a sticky situation with a friendship that I hold so dearly. Mistakes were made and feelings were hurt. As much as I wanted to act like it didn't affect me and carry on, the reality was that it hurt really bad. I talked to Kelly about it, and she really encouraged me to use direct communication. I knew that that was the advice she was going to give, but I think I needed to hear it. I needed her to tell me how to handle it and assure me that she was cheering me on. As promised I would, I directly confronted the situation and sucked up all my fear, discomfort, and anxiety. I walked pretty far outside my comfort zone that day, but in the end, I'm so glad I did. I used my voice to express the hurt I was feeling, and little did I know that that would be the beginning of an even stronger, healthier friendship. It opened the door for honesty, openness, and vulnerability. In the coming months, another opportunity arose with the need to directly confront. This time around, it was still uncomfortable, but I also felt a sense of comfort because we had done this before, and our friendship blossomed because of it, because of direct communication. We knew that we were going to get through it, and then could carry on with our fun, goofy, playful friendship. The first big point I think of in Thailand is camping with my host mother and our family. Our dearest mother had offered to take us camping, and she let us bring Zach and Cisco along with us because she adored them. She called them her sons. That Friday night, we were speeding down the road in her black BMW, piled high with snacks, when she reached over to me sitting in the front seat and kindly informed me that she noticed my weight gain. She then laughed it off, and she ran into 7-Eleven to buy herself a drink as I sat there voiceless, unable to defend myself. I put on a brave face for the weekend, but she proceeded to remind me many more times in the coming days that I looked heavier in my clothes. Why did she say that? Does she just not understand that that's not something you say? I never will fully know, but I do know that it was wrong, and that I deserved a lot of grace in that situation. I learned through that experience that not only was I ever so ready to leave my mother behind, but that I had a new ally beside me. Molly Herring took it upon herself to constantly check in on me and made it a point to protect me from more potential inappropriate comments. She always took the front seat, and she always stood up for me. We even had discreet eye rolling down to a science. This was another moment that I was reminded just how not alone I was on this hike. I was hiking with some pretty incredible people that cared a whole lot about me. Another aspect of finding my voice that I discovered partway through Thailand was speaking up for myself, being willing to ask for help. As Brene Brown once said, we don't have to do all of it alone. We were never meant to. After many complex thoughts and tough realizations, I felt as though I needed to restart the college application process. I didn't feel confident in my choice, and I had a lingering, what if I applied to other schools in my head? Having only applied to Penn State my senior year, and not even needing the Common App for that, I had no idea what I was getting into. I was completely in over my head with researching, contacting schools, filling out forms, and writing essays. My nights were typically spent in my pink princess bed with Molly Herring as she read over my essays and made me delete all words I blindly threw in from an online thesaurus. I felt so covered in support and encouragement by so many people, but I came to realize that I also needed my parents. After much debating, I decided to inform my parents of my decision to reapply to schools, and I asked for their help in the process. I consider myself a very independent person, and I often do not accept help, even if it is so kindly offered to me. This was a big step for me, and it was a moment I eventually learned to feel proud of. In Ghana, I went to lunch with our country expert and third leader in hopes of being able to create a bond with her. I was excited, and I felt hopeful that I could connect with her in a meaningful way. To my surprise, the conversation was all about the seminar we had just had, and she proceeded to ask me, "Oh yeah, why don't you ever talk in seminars?" This comment hurt, and I felt greatly misunderstood. However, I also felt a surprising amount of peace in it as well. I clearly didn't make complete sense to her, but I knew that I had Kelly and Isaac and that I did make sense to them. Something I learned through this comment is that all it takes is one person to believe in you. And hey, 2 is even better. I knew that the one thing that felt constant at the time was Kelly and Isaac, and that as long as our friendship lasted, they believed in me. They believed in my voice and in my strength and ability to also believe in my voice. As I tried to figure out what to do my POL on, with pages full of ideas, Kelly recommended this topic to me. I wasn't feeling too sure, but I trusted her. I especially trusted her after she looked me in the eyes and said, "Emma, I hope you know you found your voice." I think that having spent so much time in the leadership of Kelly and Isaac made me realize that not all educators are going to understand me outside of TVB. I had been blessed with 2 incredibly educated and experienced leaders that took a considerable amount of time out of their days to sit down and understand us. They made it clear from the beginning that they were not only just our facilitators, but also our support system and our advocates. Having spent 6 months with leaders who appreciated and respected the observer and active listener role I play in seminars was a complete and utter blessing. One of the greatest things I learned through this journey is how to be comfortable silently sitting in conversations. Interjecting when I feel it is needed, but not talking to simply hear my own voice. Learning that I don't need to try so hard to come up with something to say. I don't need to compare my voice to others in the conversation. I truly feel so much stronger and more confident in my voice coming out of this experience. I have learned that I am not the loudest or the strongest voice in the room, and I still have trouble inserting myself, but I've made so many steps in this journey. Moving forward, I believe wholeheartedly that the journey of finding my voice is going to be an ongoing battle, an ongoing hike, one of highs and lows, one of beautiful sunsets and beautiful sunrises, one of lonely moments and moments of overwhelming friendship. However, I've learned through my 6-month-long hike through life that I never have to walk it alone. I never had to walk it alone. Even when I chose to take alone cone days, I knew I had people waiting to hear about my alone cone time and to fill me in on theirs. My hope through the next few months, transitioning from TVB to home life to college, is to keep getting back up after I feel pushed down, and to give myself immense amount of grace when I fail to do so, because I'm human and I make mistakes and I deserve to carry on gracefully.
Yeah, I don't know you, but I think that you found your voice just by talking about something that's personal and you feel is something you want to work on. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Emma, I loved your story, by the way. Could you talk a little bit about what your definition of grace is and how that played such a big role in your journey?
Yeah, I would say I defined it very closely to forgiveness, just forgiving myself and giving myself peace in times where it wasn't always easy to feel that peace.
It's a great word, thank you.
Yeah.
I loved your whole presentation, but I just want to say my favorite part was when everyone was cheering for you and you just got like the biggest smile on your face, and to me that was like the pure example that like you found your voice and you were able to just show it to all of us and like feel heard, and in that moment I like really felt that like coming off of me. So
Thank you.
I'm interested in the college search. When you first started talking, I thought, I bet she's going to a small school, and then you said you only applied to Penn State. And I was like, wow, so where are you now? Or
So I applied to Dickinson, Franklin and Marshall, and UNC Charlotte, and so I'm still waiting to hear back and to kind of weigh out my options with those decisions, but I'm excited.
Well, I do know you, and I've I've seen how you've grown so much in this trip, and I think it's been a wonderful journey to see next to you, and I wish you the best of luck as you go on.
Thank you.
I also know you. I think similarly what we said before, it can be really difficult to kind of acknowledge and talk about a struggle that you've been feeling for a while now. Perhaps you still feel sometimes currently. But the way I think you're able to do it in your presentation of learning, acknowledges it, accepts it, but it reframes it as not just a struggle, but something, it's celebrating a win, essentially. And I agree with what everyone said that you've been able to do that today, so.
Thank you.